I'm presenting later today on a topic around social media. We're looking at social media and the question of whether it's really fertile ground or hostile territory for advertisers. And in doing that, what we've decided to do is not focus entirely on social media, but look at social media in its context. Because when people use social media, they're using other media as well. So we did a segmentation of 3,000 people from the US, UK, and Canada and looked at their media habits. So where do they spend their time? What are they doing? If you're using social media, how much are you using? And then we segmented those groups. And we've got five different groups. There's the media maniacs who are into every single medium. They spend all of their waking hours pretty much sucking up media, and they're definitely people that are online and watching television at the same time. That kind of person who's very immersed in just about every type. Then there's socialites who are very interested in online things. So there's social media, very definitely, as well as online news. But they're also still watching television. They're still reading newspapers and magazines. What they're not doing so much is using the radio. So then we have a Joe Watcher group, kind of a couch potato, doing all the kind of regular things, still very much the mass market, watching network television, not into a lot of radio. And then there's the broadcast receivers who are definitely into radio a lot, as well as a lot of the other mediums, but what they're not doing is really doing much online. Not much online news. They're leaning on the radio instead. And then there's a fifth group that are kind of tuned out. They're really not that into media. They don't actually spend all that much time, and they don't spend a lot of time with TV. They're not spending a lot of time with social media either. They are getting their online news, but not so much. That's not their thing. So there's this whole range of types of people that are out there. Only two of those groups are really heavily into social media. So when you think about advertising, you got to remember that there's a large number of people that are doing other things. Plus, when you look at those groups that are using social media, they are definitely using all sorts of other media as well. So that's kind of interesting because it's got implications for how you message, and is social media really unique? So we want to understand, okay, these groups, they exist, we know, but what if, say, the socialites are all real brand cynics? They're really, anti-brand. Does that mean you've got to consider something different when you go to social media than you do when you're using television? What if all the broadcast receivers are all the kind of pro-brand people? What are the implications for that? So we looked at that, and we found, in fact, those segments are absolutely identical in how they relate to brands. There are some people who love brands and some people who hate brands within each of those segments. So we thought, well, that's very interesting.
In the same proportions?
Yeah, in the same proportions. So we looked at, there are, equal numbers of people who love and loathe brands in the broadcast receivers groups, say, just as there are in the media maniac segments. So with these groups, then we thought, okay, that's interesting in general. So then we took a more specific test. We did another study where we looked at digital camera brands, and we thought they'd be kind of interesting because digital technology, cameras, very intertwined with social media, that kind of thing. And we thought, okay, well, what if they're different in relation to a specific brand as opposed to general brands? And so we rated 6 brands, including Kodak, of digital cameras. And again, did 100 tests, comparing whether there was statistically significant difference between these brand ratings and all these different segments, and found, in fact, they were identical. There was only 3 statistically significant differences, and they were very minimal, and you'd expect that with 100. So what we found there is, again, that people vary in their use of the mediums, but they don't vary in their approach to advertising. So I think the implication for that, for us, was that there's a lot of noise around social media. It has to be really different. And tactically, yes, you would use the medium differently, but the strategy really should be the same. Because one, all these people are getting messages about your brand from multiple mediums, not just through social media, even if they are heavily into it. They're still getting your television ad. They're still getting, seeing the print ad and so forth. So there's need for a consistency in strategy. Tactical variation, yes, but definitely strategically consistent. So I guess the upshot of the whole thing is the medium shouldn't dictate the message, that it's really about having one message and just taking advantage of each of the little details and nuances and strengths of each of the different medium. For a brand like Kodak, some of the implications are that while you might be very interested in social media, you'd know that using social media alone to, say, launch a new product or to put out a new campaign really isn't going to work because you're missing a large portion of your market. There are a large number of people who are still not particularly engaged in social media. So that's the first thing. You've got to go across multiple mediums. And then the second thing is that you would be using the same underlying message. So it has to be something that's going to work cross-platform. And it has to be something that you can put out in television, in print, and then I think the natural extension is to say, and then the social media version has to be really harmonized and really consistent with that. Yes, take advantage of the unique attributes of the medium, engage people in a different way and at a different level, but definitely stay on message because the medium really shouldn't dictate what that message is. One of the messages is with social media, there's been a lot of hype around it, there's a lot of interest in it, there's a lot of excitement, and some people are rushing to it as if it's the answer to all problems. Other people are just a little confused by it. I think there was a poster that they put up during the bombing raids in London in the Second World War, and it was just a sign that said, "Keep calm and carry on." And I think that's really got to be the message for people when they think about social media. There's been a lot of panic, a lot of speculation, but I think the real message is keep calm and carry on. Can I think of a brand that has really gone overboard in one direction or another? Sure, there's brands that have really stepped out there, and I don't want to name names, that went whole hog into the social media side of things and tried very hard to be clever and focused on viral videos and were sort of too cute by half and then forgot really that so many people are not in those channels and there are relatively few people who really want to engage with your brand. I mean, you know, toilet paper is lovely and everybody uses it, but you know, not a lot of people are going to want to blog on that or even do, you know, funny little gag videos around it. So people have gone overboard, but that's what happens when you've got a new medium, a new toy to play with. People, you know, get excited, and some people use it well, and other people just kind of play with it for a while and then start to figure out really how it works. And I think that's where we're at now. It's just at the stage where people are starting to figure out that, okay, all these things coexist together. How do we work out this mix? And that's going to be the challenge for the next few years.